Today's lesson is called Chess, Much More Than Just a Game. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeff.
My name is Roger. Today we're going to talk about a board game called chess. This is a very, very old game, and it is popular all over the world. And it is played here in Taiwan. I have seen chess sets for sale here, although it seems like people here in Taiwan prefer to play Wuziqi and Weiqi and Xiangqi, which have their own Chinese names. But this one here is referred to locally as Western chess, and that's the game that's more popular in Western countries and other countries as well.
There you go. And chess has enjoyed a spike in popularity as of late due to two things. In a lot of Western nations, there have been lockdowns due to COVID-19. So a lot of people have nothing to do, so they're sitting around their homes playing board games. And chess is a board game. That's the first part. The second part is the Netflix mini-series, The Queen's Gambit. A lot of people have watched this mini-series and they have gotten into chess. They want to play chess. So, today we're going to learn about chess too. Let's get on the bandwagon and learn about chess as well. Although I will say this, I've been playing chess for most of my life, and it will be a joy to talk about chess with you all today because, yes, chess is awesome. It's much more than just a game. And hopefully this fad is more than just a passing fad. Hopefully people develop a long and passionate fascination with this wonderful game known as chess. All right, folks, let's go ahead and take a short break. But when we come back, we'll start talking about chess.
Chess, much more than just a game. Enjoyed across the globe for around 1,500 years, chess is much more than a game. It's a reflection of society. As such, it can teach us a lot about history, culture, language, and even technology. Although chess is incredibly popular, nobody knows its exact origin. Our best guess is that it started in India as a way of recreating battle scenes. Eventually, it spread across the world, slowly evolving into the game we know today.
大家好，第一部分我们看到片语 as such， 表示以此身份、资格而言。例如 We stayed in a cabin at the campground, so it wasn't really camping as such. 我们住在营区的小木屋里，所以称不上是真正的露营。另外，这个片语除了上面的意思，还可以表示相应的、完全的，像是The visiting executives are our honored guests and should be treated as such at all times. 来访的高层是我们的贵宾，任何时刻都该被相应对待。
Okay, so let's get to it. Let's talk about chess, or Western chess as it's called here in Taiwan. And you might think it's just a boring old board game, but it's much more than just a game, okay? There are lots of strategies that you can employ when playing this game, and it does have a long history. Now, here in the first paragraph it says, enjoyed across the globe for around 1,500 years, or 1,500 years, chess is much more than a game. It's a reflection of society. So here it's enjoyed across the globe. You could say around the world, across the globe. It just means in all parts of the world.
All over the world. So, yes, sometimes people, they play chess to show who's smarter than who, or which country has the smarter people, or to diagram a war and how it kind of went down, or to show how a battle went, so on and so forth. It's done these things or served these roles throughout time. So yes, chess, it's more than just a game. It's a reflection of society and much, much more, and as such, it can teach us a lot about history, culture, language, and even technology.
Now, here in the next paragraph, it says, although chess is incredibly popular, nobody knows its exact origin. So even though we know that chess is very, very, very popular, it's incredibly popular still, nobody really knows where it came from. So incredibly here just means really, really to a high degree. Credible means believable, so incredible means very difficult to believe. It's so incredible, it's so fantastic, it's so wonderful that you just can't believe it. So yeah, it's incredibly popular. Its popularity is hard to comprehend, and even though it is so popular, we just don't really know where it came from. Maybe India, maybe China, who knows?
Nobody really knows its exact origin. So our best guess is that it started in India as a way of recreating battle scenes. And I kind of touched on this before. People think that, yes, there was a battle. I imagine a messenger came back and talked to a king or something and couldn't really describe what happened. So he recreated the battle by way of these pieces in order to describe to the king or the monarch or whatever what had happened in the battle. And that's where chess was born.
Right, so it's our best guess, and that seems reasonable because India is a really, really old country, a very old civilization, so lots of things have happened there, so it's not surprising that something like this would come from India, like Hinduism and Buddhism and all sorts of other good stuff. All that stuff comes from India, and eventually it spread across the world, slowly evolving into the game we know today. So yeah, that's our best guess. Most people think, yeah, it probably came from India, and then it spread from there across the world, around the globe. Okay, that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the second part.
Chess has always been inspired by the societies it was played in. For instance, the hierarchy of king, rooks, bishops, knights, and pawns was based on the social order of kingdoms. At that time, chess was used as an allegory to teach the importance of performing one's proper social role. It's also no coincidence that the powerful queen piece was added right around the time that Spain was ruled by Queen Isabella, whose leadership and determination were renowned throughout Europe.
第二部分我们看到名词 hierarchy， 意思是阶级制度，例如Military organizations usually have very strict hierarchies. 军事组织里通常有非常严格的阶级制度。或是 To survive a company's politics, you have to know its hierarchy. 为了能在公司的勾心斗角内生存，你必须懂得其阶级制度。再来，我们看到单字 allegory， 这个字是名词，指托喻，表现语义而非字面上的意思。举例来说 The tortoise and the hare is an allegory that teaches people to be persistent. 龟兔赛跑的寓言教人要坚持不懈。接下来我们看到名词 coincidence， 指巧合，同时发生。举例来说 It was a coincidence that Rob and I were taking the same flight home. Rob 和我搭同一班飞机回家是一个巧合。另外这个字去掉字尾 nce 就成了动词 coincide， 之后接 with 就表示与点点点同时发生，与点点点一致。我们可以说Brian's birthday coincides with a national holiday. Brian 的生日和一个国定假日同一天。或是 My birthday coincided with my friend's return from traveling abroad, so we celebrated together. 我的生日刚好跟我的朋友从国外旅游回来同一天，所以我们决定一起庆祝。再补充这个字的副词 coincidentally, coincidentally, coincidentally 指碰巧的、巧合的。例如Coincidentally, Mary was at the store at the same time I was, but I never saw her. 很巧的是 Mary 和我同时间都在那间店里，但我却没有看到她。
Okay, so yeah, you're probably asking the question, what does chess have to do with history and culture and language and even technology? Well, the second part of our lesson today tries to answer that question a little bit. Chess has always been inspired by the societies it was played in. So yes, even though we think that it came from India, it was played in different countries, and then those different countries kind of changed it to fit their own societies. It was inspired by those societies. For instance, or for example, the hierarchy of king, rooks, bishops, knights, and pawns was based on the social order of kingdoms. Indeed, of course, the most powerful piece on the board, or at least the piece you want to capture, is the king, okay? And then we've got other pieces. We've got rooks. We've got bishops, which, of course, were in the Catholic Church. We've got knights who would fight for the country, for the kingdom. And we've got pawns, who are basically just common everyday people who were the soldiers.
Peons or pawns, just regular soldiers that regularly get sacrificed in the course of play. Yeah, those poor pawns. Yeah, and then rooks kind of look like castles, so they're kind of powerful for that reason. But yes, the king is the one that matters, okay? When you say checkmate, that means the game is over because the king is dead. You can be down to your final piece. The other person can have tons of pieces. If you capture their king, you win. Now, notice that the queen has been left out of this hierarchy here. We'll get to that later. But here, when we talk about a hierarchy, we talk about social structure that has been constructed from the top down, okay? So the king is going to be at the top because he's the most powerful, and there the pawns are at the bottom because they're the least powerful. Anyways, at that time, chess was used as an allegory to teach the importance of performing one's proper social role. How about that? It was an allegory.
An allegory, right. Something that serves as an example for something because the original thing is just too complicated and too abstract to explain to somebody. So you come up with an allegory, okay? Some people think that in order to explain the politics of the early 20th century, you should watch the movie The Wizard of Oz, because all of the roles in that movie sort of correspond to different factors and different roles that people were playing in politics at that time. But yeah, if you have a chess set there, it might serve as an example of society at large, who's powerful and who has roles to play and who's basically worth nothing.
There you go. Now, it's also, our article continues, it's also no coincidence that the powerful queen piece was added right around the time that Spain was ruled by Queen Isabella, whose leadership and determination were renowned throughout Europe. And yes, this queen piece wasn't added to the set. It was called the queen, and it was given these new powers. And this was really when modern chess was born. When you unleash the queen on the board, you have a super powerful piece. It's got the powers of both the bishop and the rook combined. Okay, so the queen is a powerful piece, but it's also so powerful that if it gets taken, you are at a severe disadvantage in that game. So it adds a layer of complexity to the game that wasn't there before. And apparently, it's no coincidence that at the time the queen was added to the game, so to speak, that Spain was ruled by a dynamic queen, Queen Isabella. How interesting.
Interesting. And of course, so all the pieces have certain values. The queen is number 1. It's valued at 9 points, I believe, whereas the pawns are 1 point, the bishops and the knights are 3, and rooks are 5. So yes, indeed, the queen is the most powerful piece on the chessboard, so it's no coincidence that the most powerful queen at the time was Queen Isabella, and she had that determination woman, and she was renowned throughout Europe for her leadership and determination. She didn't give up. She wanted something, and she was determined. That's what determination is. If you want to have a really successful career on Wall Street, for example, you've got to have a lot of determination. Otherwise, you're going to fail immediately. That brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson for today. Let's move on to the third part, and we'll listen to it first.
How people view chess has also changed to reflect cultural values. The game went from being a simulation of war to being a metaphor for proper social order, and finally, to being a test of intelligence. It has also influenced our language and served as a benchmark to illustrate the increasing power of technology.
最后第三部分我们看到单字 metaphor 这个字是名词，指象征，做此意时常用 a metaphor for 加名词表示暗喻、隐喻。举例来说 The words the man spoke were a metaphor for friendship and love. 那名男子说的话暗喻了友情和爱情。或是 Light is a common metaphor for knowledge. 光常用来比喻为知识。另外这个字的字尾加上 ical 就成了形容词 metaphorical 指隐喻的、比喻的。例如Jenny used a metaphorical style to tell her story. Jenny 用隐喻的方式讲她的故事。
Okay, here's the third and final part of today's lesson. How people view chess has also changed to reflect cultural values. So people view chess different ways in different countries at different times of history. So how people view chess has changed because of those cultural values. Now, the game went from being a simulation of war to being a metaphor for proper social order, and finally, to being a test of intelligence. So remember, we talked about the fact that they were using chess pieces as a way to sort of recreate the battlefield. So it was a simulation of war, kind of a recreation. That's what a simulation is, basically recreating something in a different form to make it easier to understand.
Yeah, recreating something maybe in a virtual environment. It's supposed to look like the real thing, resemble the real thing without being the real thing or without having the consequences of the real thing. Now, it also says here that it went from being a simulation of war to being a metaphor for social order, okay? So a metaphor is a way of talking about something. It's actually a way of comparing something directly. In the English language, you have similes where you say something is like something. Well, with a metaphor, the comparison is more direct. You say something is something. That's the idea with a metaphor. You are being more literal with your comparison, even though that one thing is not actually that other thing, okay? Then, it has also influenced our language and served as a benchmark to illustrate or to show the increasing power of technology.
Right, so of course, chess has influenced our language, and a benchmark, of course, is something is like a standard, okay? So it served as a benchmark or a standard to illustrate the power of technology as it increased. So if you illustrate something, you kind of explain something. Most often the word illustrate is used to refer to pictures that come along with a written article. You have a picture there to kind of show you what that thing looks like. If you read an article about, say, Chinese history thousands of years ago, it may come with an illustration to show you what things probably looked like back then.
There you go. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break, but don't go away. Don't fret. The Chinese teacher is on her way.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分提到，西洋棋里面的国王啊、城堡、主教、骑士和兵的阶级制度是根据王国的社会秩序。好，文中用到这个名词 hierarchy， 它是用来指阶级制度。那我们来学习它的字首字根。好 ，arch 或者是拼作 archi 这一类的字根，它表示首要的、 支配的或是原来的、开始等等，常常会接在其他名词的前面来表达较早的或是最基本的或是位阶比较高的，就是说像对他人有掌控权的那种意思。另外，这个字根呢也常常在后面加上字尾 y 来表达政体啊、政府或是统治等等的意思。好，那我们再看到这个 hierarchy 这个字当中呢，它的字首 h-i-e-r 表示神圣的，字根 a-r-c-h 表示支配，那么 y 是名词字尾。我们可以试着从上层阶级的支配统治是神圣不可动摇的语义去联想到 hierarchy 它有阶级制度、统治集团的意思。好，顺便补充几个有相同字根的单字哦。第一个是 anarchy A-N-A-R-C-H-Y， 它的字首 A-N 是来自 A 在母音前面就会拼作 A-N。 好，那这个字首呢表示无，字根 A-R-C-H 表示领导人， Y 是名词字尾，无领导人、没有领导人应该很容易联想到 anarchy 它表示无政府状态。第二个是 monarch 或者是 monarch M-O-N-A-R-C-H。 好，它的字首 M-O-N 表示单一，字根 A-R-C-H 表示支配，单一支配，只有一个人统治，这样应该很容易联想到 monarch 或者是 monarch 这个字，它表示君王啊、帝王的意思。我们在后面加上名词字尾 y 变成 monarchy， 就表示君主政体、君主制国家。第三个是 patriarchy P-A-T-R-I-A-R-C-H-Y。 好，它的字首 P-A-T-R-I 表示家人或是父亲，字根 A-R-C-H 表示支配， Y 是名词字尾。好，那由父亲支配应该很容易联想到 patriarchy 它表示父权制度。如果把这个名词字尾的 Y 改成形容词字尾 AL， 你就会得到 patriarchal 这个形容词来形容父权制的、男性主宰统治的。 A patriarchal society 就可以表达父权社会了。好，读到课文第二部分的最后一句，他说 It's also no coincidence that the powerful Queen piece was added right around the time that Spain was ruled by Queen Isabella。 好，这边用到句型 It is no coincidence 加上 that 子句，它也可以写作It is not a coincidence 加上 that 子句来表达什么什么并非巧合，绝非偶然。好，其中这个 it 是虚主词，用来代替后面的 that 子句。那么 coincidence 在这边当可数名词来表达巧合，所以这样的句型就是表达说 that 子句所描述的内容并非巧合。举例来说， It was no coincidence that they showed up in the same dress。 他们穿一样的洋装出现并非巧合，应该就是有约好一起穿出来的啦。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Globe. When he retires, Harvey plans to sail around the globe with his wife. Incredibly, even though he is 70 years old, Thomas is incredibly fit and healthy. Coincidence. It was a remarkable coincidence that I bumped into you here. Determination. Travis lacks talent, but he makes up for it with sheer determination. Renowned. The region is renowned for its natural beauty and fine wine. Metaphor. In the novel, the city is a metaphor for struggle, confusion, and loneliness. Illustrate. Keith's presentation clearly illustrated the benefits of public health care.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you guys enjoyed reading and learning along with us. I am Jeff.
I am Roger. See you next time.